All right. Think we're rocking and rolling. Can everyone hear me? I think so. That's a good sign. AT&T's been a little bit spicy this morning, but how y'all doing? Good morning, afternoon, 11 a.m., whatever. Say hello to the chablet. Say hi, chat. You are within the chablet, and the chablet is within you. All right. To make sure this is good, we'll give everyone a moment to get here, I suppose. Things are still a little goofy with YouTube and streaming, it seems, so this should be fun. We're gonna do it live. I think my chat is completely frozen, so that's a good sign. Let me reboot that while we wait for everyone. Well, so today's subject, obviously, Falcon. UVI just released a new version of Falcon called Falcon 2026, which is the fourth iteration of Falcon, but now it's called Falcon 2026. There's my chat. All right, how are we doing, everybody? I see Richard's number one again, as always. All right. Yeah, so been a little bit busy filming what has been one of the most long and expensive and incredibly tedious videos I've ever made. So that's been fun, and this will be a nice break from that because we just get to play with Falcon. So in this stream, I thought I would just walk everyone through Falcon. Like, kind of just from 0 to 100, how do you use this thing? Because I feel like every time I make a Falcon video on UVI's channel, there's just like a million questions and complaints and concerns, and people just don't get it. And I figured I can be that guy. I can teach you the ways of Falcon. Let's just get the old MIDI controller rocking and rolling here. So I kind of have like a loose itinerary of things I wanted to go through. I just wanted to walk through like a blank patch and the hierarchy of how a Falcon patch works. And then we're just going to build a couple different patches together in real time. And, you know, you can ask questions and all that good stuff just because, I don't know. It's funny that moving the mic. It's funny that like every time I make a walkthrough video for UVI, people complain like, why is this guy talking? And it's like, you know, it's almost like you clicked an explainer video or something. So let's make sure we've got some audio going here in Falcaroony. Hopefully that's coming through. All right. So let's do it. There we go. All right. This is Falcon. This is Falcon 2026. Technically, I'm still running a beta of this, but pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. So, Falcon, the new presets, first off, is under the Falcon Factory Rev 2. They're all in here somewhere. I think because I'm running the beta, it's not like totally organized, but not important. Again, so, you know, when you open Falcon, if you just want to make noises, you can go to the folder and go to the sound banks and go to the factory. That's pretty much all there is to it. And then any other soundware and stuff you have will show up here. I think I've got maybe one or two Falcon because it's the beta, they're not in here. But whatever. Falcon expansions and any UVI soundwares you own will show up here. So Falcon Factory stuff. And then if I wanted to load, I don't know, like Sunbox, because I love Sunbox. Let's just grab one of these. So you can load any soundware into Falcon. And the fun thing with that is normally in Workstation, this is what you would get, is just this stuff. But within Falcon, we can actually go in here and add new things to it. So let's say this particular patch. Like, cool, I wish it had distortion, and we could go in here and add a drive, right? You know, so we could increase that. But let's say that's not like the drive we want. We want like a different character of drive, and that's where being able to edit stuff within Falcon comes in handy. So right now I'm running a program. We're going to walk through all this in a moment, but let's say I want a different distortion. So I can actually go over to my effects here, find like the new tube amp distortion, because I've been using that a whole bunch. So we can go to the chain and actually throw on whatever we want. I'm going to throw that before the maximizer, actually. So now I can customize what's going on within a Falcon patch. So this has multiple layers running. I could add a dual filter to the layers. And, you know, kind of rebuild a patch and a, you know, soundware to my liking if I wanted to. So we can go in here and add effects, we can add scripts, we can even go into the key groups here, and right now it comes with the expander filter. Excuse me. I could just knock this out for the low pass 24. So right now I've completely changed the entire filter architecture of this library with a filter that doesn't even exist in it. So that's the fun of Falcon, and that's kind of what makes it ultra super duper powerful, but also there's a lot more to it than that. So let's just start over here. So new Falcon patch. Right now it does nothing. How do we make something? So we go over to the edit tab, and this is where all the guts of a Falcon patch live, and we can start adding oscillators first. So let's just build a, I don't know, some kind of like subtractive FM based thing. So I can drag on an oscillator to the key groups here. So we have oscillators and key groups. Oscillators obviously are the oscillators. That's where the noise comes from, right? I'm going to throw a limiter on this session just for posterity. Always good to have a limiter on your sessions. So we can play with this oscillator. Cool. So the hierarchy of Falcon works from the bottom up, essentially. So we have the mapping. So right now I just have an FM oscillator going across all the keys. If you wanted to expand on this, we could add a phase shaper. And let's say I only want the phase shaper to exist in the top half of the keyboard. So now, if I play this side is the FM, and then this side is the FM and a phase shaper oscillator. And then let's say I want a super saw, but only for this octave here. So now in the middle, just FM. Up here, FM plus phase shaper, and down here, FM plus super saw. So the cool thing with that is that if you really, really wanted to, and I've done patches like this, you could have an oscillator only for an individual key. So right now, all this does nothing, but only C3 produces a note. So I could have a super saw, an FM, a da-da-da-da-da, and have that individual oscillators across every individual key. So that gets us into our key groups. And you can see that this oscillator is key group 1. So we want to make this subtractive, right? So this is where key groups come in. So a subtractive synth is going to have a filter on top. So right now, sounds like that. Let's add a ladder filter. So I can drag this onto that key group, and now we have a filter. Obviously, we could control this, but we might want to add an envelope or something to it. So to do that, I can right-click here, add a modulation, and because this is on the key group level, I'm going to go to key group and add an analog ADSR. So I can see that down here in the key group level modulators. This right now is called analog ADSR, and I don't like that, so I can double-click, and we'll call this filter envelope. Cool. So now this is tied to the filter. And if I do this, maybe add some resonance, that's how we can add modulators to stuff. And we can add multiple modulators if we want. So let's add another modulation on the key group level and make it an LFO. So this envelope and this LFO are going to control things. But right now it sounds like a bit of a mess because that LFO is doing the entire range of modulation. So ignoring this depth control, if we wanted to edit and assign modulation, we can right click on the filter, go to edit modulations, and we can see here's our LFO, and this is the depth that it's modifying it. So I can turn this down, maybe make it real subtle. So now we do get our filter envelope. And then we have polyphonic LFOs because they're being generated down at the key group level, modifying those voices and their filter cutoff. So filter envelope, we could increase the dynamics. So it responds to dynamics. We have the same with the amp envelope here. And then maybe we want to re-edit that. We can go in here and change our filter envelope depth by modifying this. And now we've got a cool basic subtractive patch. Let's make this maybe a little spicier. Great. So that's the basics of our patch. Now, going up to the layer. The layer level is everything that's contained within the key groups. And this will make a little bit more sense over here in the tree view. So there's multiple windows here. This is where we have our programs, and we can have multiple programs. So I can load or create multiple patches on a single instance of Falcon, which is very similar to, you know, Contact and other samplers and things like that. So here is where we can see the deeper hierarchy of everything. So within a program, we have all the things that make up a preset for all intents and purposes. In our layer, if we open that up, we can see here is our key group, and within our key group, we have our FM oscillator, our ladder filter, and our modulators. Cool. So the layer is anything that exists within all key groups that we have, and we could have, as we've seen by adding multiple oscillators, different key groups. So if I wanted, I could have one key group on the lower end, one key group on the higher end, and add different effects to both of those individually, which is like ridiculously powerful. So why don't we just put on a tape echo? We could sync that. Maybe we'll get like heads 1 and 2, and we'll do like a dotted 1/8 and an 1/8. Cool. We could up the intensity to have more feedback. We could change the rate. And we could drop down our mix. Cool. Hopefully that makes sense. So now on the program level, because we can have multiple layers, we can instance other effects on top of that. So for the sake of demoing this, we could add a new layer, and I guess we'll make it like a, I don't know, why don't we make it a sub oscillator? So within the list view, these are my layers. So I'm going to add one layer, we'll call this FM, and then layer 2 we'll call sub. So now we can see FM has an oscillator, has effects in the key group, and has effects for that layer. But this layer here, called sub, is completely super duper squeaky clean. So let's add a supersaw. And we can adjust the oscillator tuning. Let's just drop it down an octave. Great. Now we can instance some effects on that. I think we'll do a VCF 20 just on the key group. We'll make it a low pass. Cool. Let's add some modulation to that. So another key group LFO. And I'm going to edit that modulation depth. So it's just going to move that filter. Great. So from here we could do, well, we'll skip that. That's a little advanced. But we can make it unipolar. So it's only going to go up. And let's say that, I don't know, layer needs a little bit more balls to it. Let's grab a different effect, maybe the diode clipper. Neat. And we could blend these together. We could adjust our layer gain here, so this is only going to affect everything in this entire layer. And away we go. So now we get to the program level. The program level is all things contained within that preset, like I said. So if we want to do maybe a convolution on here, we could throw a special effect. Industrial's kind of fun. So you'll hear everything is as it is, and if I increase the wet level, if I mute this FM layer, the sub-layer is also going through that because this effect is being applied at a program level. What's a fun one? Sure. Bring in our FM level. Sounds great. And we could throw on a reverb of some kind. Let's just grab like a plate. And now we can go in and play with all this. So on our FM level, or FM layer rather, I think I want to have it more pad-like I want it to swell. Cool. Sounds good. And then same thing here. I'm going to have this fade in, so I'm editing just that layer. Not the best sound in the world, but that's how we build a Falcon patch. So hopefully that all makes sense. How heavily is this VST on CPU? I mean, I've used a bunch of instances of Falcon and not had any problem. Right now, my CPU says it's using 7%. For whatever it's worth, I'm also live streaming while using it, but I've done, you know, big sessions of Falcon shit, and I haven't had a problem, but I'm running an i9 13 whatever, so your mileage may vary. Anyways, so right now, that's our patch. And that's great, but it's not really controllable here. If we go back to our info tab, anytime we want to touch something, we'd have to jump into that patch to edit it, which can be a little bit tedious. So from here, we could add some macros, which is really handy. So why don't we go into, I guess we'll start with the convolver, and I want to add a control for that. So I can add a macro, so assign to macro, add new macro, and then we can start editing these over on the main tab. So we'll see here we have macro 1, but it's not really useful. So I can click that icon, the wrench icon, and edit this. So we'll call this convolution, and then I could move this up over here. Great. What else do we want to control? Maybe the tape echo. So I'm going to go to assign to macro, add new macro. These macros show up over here if I whack these together. So we have macro 1, convolution, macro 2. So we can also rename these here if we double click. So this will be tape delay. So there's a lot of ways to accomplish different things in Falcon, and then the value readout is just the value of that effect. So if I increase tape delay, we get more tape delay. If I increase convolution, we get more convolution. That's pretty much it to building patches, and you can add controls for really whatever you want and just fill this out with all your cool macros and such. And further to that, we can add more modulation, so we could do MIDI learn. So I could MIDI learn this control, and right now I need to set this to Omni mode. So I could MIDI learn, and now I can control that tape delay from my little fader box. And that, of course, could be read by the DAW. If we want to get rid of that, clear the modulation. Now that does nothing. So that's the whole spiel of Falcon. And within all this, you know, there's a million things we can do. There's granular stuff, there's sampling stuff, there's time stretching stuff, there's like resynthesizer things, the new 808 bass drum, additive oscillator, analog, strings, FM, drums, resonators, noise, phase shaper, so I think you get the idea. It's ridiculously powerful, and it can kind of just be whatever you want. So, building off this, there's a couple other things I wanted to show, and I guess for the sake of time, we can just continue using this patch. So, let's talk about MPE, I think. Actually, you know what? Maybe before that, now let's do MPE, and then we'll talk about like doing a sample instrument in it. So within Falcon, we have scripts, and scripts can do a number of things. There's chord generators, there's fake ensemble generators, there's analysis tools, there's physics-based scripts, so I could have like bouncing balls and then assign the balls hitting the barrier to a parameter. Lots and lots of very fun stuff. Way too much to get into for the intents and purposes of this stream. But let's talk about MPE. So MPE in Falcon, super duper easy. It's just a little weird with how you implement it, but you know, that's why we're doing this stream, right? So up here on the program level, I want this entire program to be MPE-ified. So I can add or open the events here, and we can just drag MPE onto that. So I'm going to flip into MPE mode on my controller. And we can see right now as I press, the harder I press the key, that's my Z axis, and then my aftertouch is my Y axis. So within this, we can customize things. In this case, I can also output this to poly aftertouch or script event mod 0. So right now, this is doing nothing. And we can see we have two targets, script event mod 0 and script event mod 1. Within this patch, anything that can be polyphonically modified, obviously, can be MPE-ified. So let's say we want to play with our first layer. So I'm going to go to the list view and grab our first layer, and I'm going to do the filter cutoff here. So we can right-click this and add modulation from the program, and we could do script event modulation because we have script event 0, script event 1. So done that, edit modulation, and in here we have our script event, and we can do event ID 0 or 1. So right now it's event ID 0, which is the key press depth, not aftertouch. And I could add some slew to that to kind of smooth it out. We could edit that modulation so it doesn't open the filter all the way. Maybe we could make this into more of a MPE friendly patch. Not sure how well that's coming through, but turn it up a little bit and you can hear it. So that filter's open. So if I play a chord, cool. And I get my bends in there. Of course, all MPE, and that part is automatically assigned. So now, layer 2, the sub, why don't we assign script event mod 1 or aftertouch to the cutoff of the sub? So again, add modulation, it's coming from the program level. So I'm gonna go script event modulation, edit, find my script event, and I'm gonna set this to event ID 1. So my key press depth controls the first layer, and the aftertouch controls the second layer, and all of that MPE. Falcon Fly with Rolly Airwave Me Seaboard. I'm not sure, but as long as it's a MIDI event, you can assign it to whatever. So I'm not sure if the air thing is MPE. I don't really know how that works, but let's say it was like CC74 or some arbitrary thing. You can add modulation and MIDI learn, or we can go into MIDI CC and then assign freely any MIDI CC. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm not sure how that device works, but if it's MIDI stuff, you can assign it somehow. So, beyond that, that's pretty much like building synths in Falcon. It's a good time. I like it. I like it a lot, especially with a lot of reverb. Neat stuff, right? So, that out of the way, that's pretty much all there is to Falcon, right? Beautiful. It works from the bottom up, and the reason the UI is super ugly and hard to understand is because I think, in absolute fairness, how would you make any of that simpler? Like, it's literally one of the most powerful workstation plugins available. I don't think the UI is that bad, considering the fact that it can be essentially whatever you want. And also, you can write your own scripts for it in Lua. So if you wanted to add like a special arpeggiator or a chord generator or something, like if you know Lua, you can add your own scripts and build your own things. You can also customize the interfaces. You can write your own, knobs and like animation VU meters and all sorts of crazy shit. So as much as people complain about the Falcon is so hard to use, I don't really think it is once you understand that it's literally just bottom up, and then you can split things up however you like. And I think it's pretty straightforward. Because like I said, in absolute fairness, I don't think there's a way to make this easier. Because it can, again, just do pretty much whatever you want. So, I guess, does anyone have questions on that whole flow? Or do we want to move on to build a multi-sample instrument? Can Falcon run third-party plugins? No. It's all self-contained. How it will sound if you hook Seaboard Rise into it. I mean, it'll sound exactly the same. It sounds like this. The controller would just be different. The Seaboard wouldn't affect the sound at all. Can you mention the differences between Spark and Bloom? So, Spark Verb is like a super ultra diffused, why don't we let's just make a new program. Let me grab I think the best way to demonstrate this is with noise. We'll do a pink noise burst. Sure. So Spark Verb, let's just up the decay to like 5 seconds or something. Very diffuse, lush, like ultra all-passy reverb algorithm. Very like long, smooth decays, goes for a very long time. And you can hear, I don't know how much you know about like reverb algorithm design, but we have like early reflections and later reflections. And later reflections are the delay lines feeding back into themselves. And if you don't have a very diffused reverb, you can hear like these little pings of like like you would a delay, but just, you know, like a dozen of them at a time or something. So if we up this to like 15 seconds, you can very faintly hear like a da-da-da-da-da-da-da, like a very fast diffusion thing, but it's like ultra lush. And as I crank that diffusion, that artifact, we'll call it, goes away. So if I feed this something like a sine wave pluck, let's go into like a reasonable octave. Very open, spacious, and you can hear there's like chorusing going on in it. It's very subtle, like, you know. So spark verb sounds like that. Now, the bloom, on the other hand, uses a different diffusion architecture, and we have some fun things we can do with it, like the rising taps. And you can hear they sort of swell into themselves. Let's up the decay. Something like the depth mode. A little more lush, natural. A little more pingy on the tails. And then the other thing with bloom, I don't really know how this works exactly, but if I play like a bunch of notes, there's still that chorusing, but like harmonically, it's very, very clean. So if I play, if we just do like the whole tone scale or something a little more like weird. You can hear there's like a resonant chordal quality to that reverb. Whereas with spark verb, if I do that exact same thing, I think that was like 9 or 12 seconds. I don't know, whatever. So spark verb, if I do that. It maybe sounds a little richer and more lush, but you can hear like the overtones kind of bleed together a little bit more. That's the best I can describe it. I don't know how or why that is. That level of DSP programming is above my pay grade. That's why I'm just a YouTuber. Where are the MPE assignments in the tree? So let's add a MPE script here once again. So script processor, tree, script processor here. I believe that's what's showing. Yeah, so right now it shows as script processor on the program level. And I believe we can rename this somehow. Not sure. Maybe not. Well, oh, no, you can't because it is a script processor. It's running the MPE script. Sorry. So in the tree layer, it's going to show up on the level that you assigned the event. So if I added that to the layer level events, and I go back to the, or sorry, we're within the tree. Right now, we don't see it on the program level, but if I open the layer level, you'll see the script processor. So anytime you add a script, it'll show up as the script processor tied to the layer or the program, depending on what level you add it on. Can you combine your own patches you build with something pre-made like Noctua? Yeah, so this right now, the world's best patch. I could grab another layer, or sorry, another program instance here, and we could add a, sure. So I can load that from Sunbox onto another layer. I'm just going to set this to respond to Omni. We'll set this to regular mode. And now, And you could do that for as many instances as you like. And then, as I said at the start of the stream, if you have Falcon and you have a soundware or whatever you want to use, like Noxua or whatnot, you can go in here and add new things to it and customize the soundware to, you know, do whatever you want, basically. How to make instruments like violin. Yeah, we're going to do a multi-sample example here next. Different saturation algorithms. Yes, so in the effects view here, drive and distortion. Right here we have analog crunch, diode clipper, drive, exciter, fuzz, guitar boxes, which are like amp sims, I guess you could call it. We could just throw a few of these on here. So analog crunch on a sine wave. It's going to get very loud. Diode clipper is a little more, kind of reminds me of like a guitar overdrive pedal. Bit more crunchy. Drive is more of like a utility drive. This has oversampling control and a couple different modes. Skipping ahead, you know, fuzz is a fuzz pedal. Much more like hard rectifying square waves. Guitar boxes. If we flip through some presets. That maybe doesn't sound like much with a sine wave. Let's try a saw. So different like guitar amps. Magnetic bass shaper is a bass saturator. Overdrive, TS overdrive, which is a Ibanez tube screamer. That one's super nice. Tube amp is new. It's a circuit modeled, you know, tube saturator, which on like low things is particularly fun. And then we have full-on wave shaper. So we could do a sine shaper. We can change the shape here. So a rectifier. We can, I don't know, tan H, which is a soft clipper. And so on. So lots of different like distortions. There's different compressors. There's different reverbs, filters, delays, modulations, you know, like different choruses and all sorts of stuff. MIDI out. Yeah, we're going to do MIDI out after I do a sample thing. In the Yo Fave bass preset from Falcon 26, there are two oscillators. How can I assign a macro to control the gain of only one oscillator without affecting the other? Let me see if I have that preset. I'm still using a beta version right now for because I had to film the video for it. Ah, there it is. All right, cool. So, what was the question? Two oscillators, how can I assign a macro to control the gain of only one oscillator without affecting the other? So, yeah. First off, we're going to go into the edit mode so we can edit the patch. There's two oscillators here, 808, bass drum, and wavetable. And we want to control the gain of only one oscillator without affecting the other. Cool. So right now these oscillators are linked. So if I turn down the gain, for example, it does both. Same with the pitch. So if we want to do something individually, we can actually just unlink the oscillators. And then we would get control over whatever oscillator is actively selected. So I want to increase the pitch of only the wavetable by unlinking these. And now let's say I want to control that level. Let's add a macro. So I'm going to add a new macro. We can find that over here. I'm going to call this os2 level. And back on the info tab. Oh, because it's running a script. Yeah, it's going to lock you out of that. Anyways, what we could do in this case is with this macro, I could assign this value to, how about, let me set this to Omni mode real quick. Or it's already on Omni mode. So add modulation MIDI learn to this controller. So now, there you go. So yeah, anytime you want to edit an individual oscillator, you can unlink them. And if you want to edit both at the same time, you can link them. Just a faster way to work through things. Okay. Leo, what's up? All right. Yeah. All right. I think that's everything there. Let's build a sampler instrument. So I'm going to grab some files here. And it's going to take a moment to load. I think it's on this. Yep. So let's grab just something from one of my decent sample libraries. How about we play with strands? I like that library. Okay. Great. So let's play with these. I think this is going to start at C2, and a cello is tuned in fifths. So C, G, and by dragging it lower, it's going to automatically snap it to that relevant key zone. D, and then A. So if I play C, there we go. G, D, and A. There we go. So now I want to stretch these to map it down. Just life advice, I always find stretching samples downward sounds better than pitching up. So now I should have that. Sounds good to me. Now, we can do quite a few things with samples to make them a little bit more fun. I think the first thing we could do is grab our round robins. I put that on the wrong key. This is the fun of building sample instruments. So let's throw that on G, D, and then A. So I can select these. And now we have both layers of this going. But that maybe doesn't sound super duper great because these are stacked on top of these other oscillators. So instead what we could do is I'm going to add another sample oscillator here. If I could not be blind, that would be great. So this is the first one, which is the note C. And then I have round robin 2 here. Drag that in. And then I have round robin 3 here. So round robins, what they do is every time I play this note, it's going to pick one of these 3 samples. So I can open up the editor here. We can do a lot of things with, like, I want it to be lo-fi, I want it to be the best quality, I want to change the sample start point, and we can fine tune every single one of these samples. But I'm going to go to random cycling mode. So now every time I press this C, it's going to trigger a different one of these groups. So now we'll repeat that process for these other 2 really quick. And because the mapping is already set, we don't have to redo that. And bear with me, we just got to do this a couple more times. Oh, I already did that one. And then I want this one. And this last group. 2 more samples. And you can just drag it on there. I guess that would have been the fastest way to do this. But now we got to change all these. So I'm going to do random cycle, go back to this group of oscillators, random cycle, this group of oscillators, random cycle. So now all 3 of these have 3 different round robins. Therefore, when I play them, it doesn't sound so much like I'm triggering the same sample every single time because it's all, you know, randomly cycling through a group of samples. So now, to make this a little more interesting, I'm going to select all of these, and I'm going to add modulation, key group, and we can just do a... I think the easiest one to do... Actually, you know what we could do is go to Other and Random. So I'm going to edit this modulation now because right now it's going to randomly cycle through the entire range. But I'm just going to randomize the sample start by like the teeniest, tiniest bit. And we're getting little clicks there. So to fix that, I'm just going to increase the attack of the envelope to like something super tiny. Let's move it up a little bit more. And we can do the same for each of these other ones. So the faster way to do that, if we go into here, should show up on... Well, the fastest way to do this actually is just going to be... Yeah, okay. So we've got some randomization. Add modulation. We'll do other random. Grab again. Add modulation. Other random. Add modulation. Other random. So let's edit these real quick just to make sure it's not like completely whipping through random points. And this way we're essentially getting more round robins out of a limited group of round robins because not only are we randomizing between 3 samples in each group, we're also randomizing the start times of those. So everything sounds like infinitely more varied. For the sake of volume, why don't we add a maximizer here? And now we've got our lovely little string ensemble going on. And I'm just going to grab so we could add some velocity. And we could start tweaking each of these if we want, just to have a little bit more variety. Yeah, you can watch the whole stream later. So cool. Now we've got our little multi-sampler instrument built. Let's add some effects to make it sound a little bit more interesting. I think on the program level, an impulse response would be good. We could get a music hall. Sounds all right. Now, we don't have legato or anything here, but we're not going to walk through legato triggering, or otherwise we'd be here from now until like the end of time. So that's all feeling pretty good. I think we could smooth out this a little bit. I think I'm happy with that. Let's add maybe a dual delay or something before that. So like yes, something just to add some space. Cool. So that feels good. I think the only other problem here is right now we don't have velocity. So one really cool trick to make sample libraries feel a little bit better is to actually add a one pole filter on all of the key groups. So I'm going to add this here. So a one pole filter is simply a filter with no resonance. It's one pole. It's very, very, very smooth. So I could set that cutoff to 0, add modulation, and we'll do velocity. So now, if I play soft, sounds like someone playing soft. If I play loud, it opens up all the way. So if I play something a little more interesting, it, feels a little bit more dynamic. We could probably start the cutoff point a little higher. So that feels pretty good. I like where that's going, and I think it could benefit from maybe something else going on in this patch. How about a... yeah, one of these like really soft layers. I think what I would like to do is add a... let's do the grains oscillator because this one's new. We're starting on 2, which is going to be G. And I'm going to stretch this over the range of everything. Throw our sample in here. Let's put it on cloud mode. So now we have like a granular layer underneath that. And maybe this one, we can give that a different effect. Maybe just like the straight up analog filter. So I'm only editing key group 5 right now, which is why that effect went away. But if I select all of them, we'll see it's multi-selection. In this case, I really just want to do key group 5. So I'm going to grab that. Analog filter. And let's maybe tie that to the mod wheel. Cool. Now we've built a sample patch. That's pretty much all there is to it. It's a lot of fun. We could extend the ranges maybe a little bit to make this slightly more playable. Cool. That's a sampler instrument. Pretty neat stuff. Getting into, sample instrument design, there's so many things you can do that are just like super cool, but well beyond the scope of, doing a live stream. Anyways, does anyone have questions about the sampling workflow? Also, for whatever it's worth, in case it's not clear, during this time, if I wanted to add a analog stack oscillator, into the mix here, I can also do that. That creates a new key group. Actually, why don't we just make that an analog oscillator? Because I can just do this. And let's give that a ladder filter. So during that time, and because I'm only working on key group 6, we can have like a analog sub. You know, cool stuff. How long did it take you to master Falcon? I've been using Falcon for like, I don't know, God, like as long as I've had this channel, I think, like 6 or 7 years. But it's, you know, pretty straightforward, I think. Like once you understand the flow, like I said at the beginning, it's just bottom to top, then like, I don't think it's that difficult to use other than just like big patches take a lot of time. When you have all those key groups layered, how do you select the ones behind? So with that, yeah, the tree view and the list view can also be helpful. So the list is like a faster way to edit layers, I find. So we can MIDI mute this, we could transpose the layer, we can, you know, fine tune the layer, the part and the program. The layer here we can name, and then the key groups that make up a layer are here. So this is like the faster way to maybe access those. But for deeper, you know, what the hell's going on? What is each thing made of? So if I want to see not only what layer is selected, but what that layer consists of, I have all of that in the tree view. So tree view is like super detailed. List view is more of like a fast reference view. Basically, Falcon is a different type of contact sampler. Yeah, I mean, it's a workstation. It can be sampler, it can be synth, it can be... well, what we're going to do next is it can also just control hardware with the scripts and sequencers and stuff, which, you know, maybe we'll do... Or I think the Summit is hooked up, so I'm going to let that boot up for a minute, and then we'll do that. So I'll throw my disaster of a notebook over there. I love Falcon. Never got into the weeds of sound design. Oh, Viral, what's up? Yeah, dude. Falcon. Damn good time. All right. Any other questions on sampler bits? Or are we cool to move on to the MIDI out? All seems quiet on the Western Front. Okay. So, new program, starting over, and... All right, what channel are you today? Perfect. Doink. Great. Arpeggio, MIDI sequence arpeggio. Cool. So, script-wise, let's grab... Man, they're all really fun, is kind of the problem. How about ostinato arp? Could be kind of fun. So, yeah, then we just need a MIDI out script. Right here. Whoops, MIDI player. MIDI out. So that's going to send out MIDI channel as is. So I can route this. Obviously, your DAW is going to be different. When in doubt, read the manual. So I'm going to send the MIDI hardware output to my interface output, which is then going to feed into the hardware. Isn't that fun? Wow, said everyone. So we could play with the speed of stuff. I'm just going to make something up here. So let's just play with the number of hits and the steps of everything. And we can add a, let's see, chance modifier. Octave, I'm going to boost this one up with a 50% chance. This one stays up with a 70-ish% chance. And this one's going to harmonize a 7 semitones or a perfect fifth. So now I could play a chord. And now I'm just going to let that sustain and turn this into not the world's stupidest patch. We go. So that stands for anything. So not only could I have that feeding out to hardware, but let's say we want to grab Vital, for instance, and just make a quick and cheap So same thing. Now that sequencer is feeding into another plugin. So there's like a billion different sequencers inside of Falcon. The Ostinato ARP's a very, very fun one, but we can do some more kind of goofy ones that are neat. Snowflakes. I really like this one for like ambient stuff. So you can see we have these little cells, and it's going to generate hits as those snowflakes cross the physical barrier. So once again, I'm going to route the output to the hardware synth. We could slow down the time scale and maybe make this into kind of a chill. So now it's just throwing snowflakes out to the hardware synth. We could make it something a little more spicy. But we can also add other scripts on top of scripts. So let's do like the tonal harmonizer. So now any snowflake that gets generated is then going to be processed by another script. This is going to generate a harmony, so a minor third and a fourth in C major. So that's sending out 3 notes at a time. Let's make it a fifth and a major second. Maybe just fifths. Oh, sorry. This is the degree. So 5th degree or a perfect fifth. That makes sense. So then we could maybe play with the... What's a fun one? Like gate mod. So we can have a chance that it's going to skip, a chance that it's going to delay with some randomization, and a chance of ratcheting 3 hits and just more randomization. And that's just feeding out to hardware. No way to use Falcon as a processor yet. Hopefully one day. But yeah, so that's kind of the cool thing. You know, we could start playing with other scripts in here. I don't know, waterfall is kind of a fun one. So that generates a 3-octave sweep. Let's do this without the ratcheting. So if I do this, now I can feed the snowflakes into that. And then add probability. Get some really pretty, you know, plucky things. Rain sequencer, also very fun. Let's turn off our probability layer. And I can just start randomizing all the stuff here. And that feeds out to hardware. Pretty fun stuff. Cool. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. Does anyone have questions? That's pretty much it. A nice, straightforward, that's how Falcon works, and that's some fun things it can do. If you draw a sample in Falcon, can you assign different parts to pads on the controller? Like a drum loop? Is that what you're kind of thinking there? Just want to make sure I'm like understanding the question, right? Because if so, let me find... We could just find like a loop library or something. Cool. So let's drag this in. Actually, no. Let's grab a slice oscillator. Drag my sample in. So slice oscillator now will map those sections. What octave am I in? So now these slices are mapped to these keys. So that can work. Yeah, I guess if that's what you're asking. One sample to multiple separate keys. Yeah, I guess this would be the way to do that. There's also... Well, we won't get into that. Yeah, for all intents and purposes, that's how to do it. So slice oscillator, I would load my sample into there. The BPM it would detect. So right now it's wrong. I think my mapping Oh, why can I not edit that? I mean, I guess it's like technically right. It's just halftime. I guess it knows it's halftime. So now I can just hit map and it'll automatically slice those. But there's fun stuff we can do. Where is she at? I haven't used this one in a while. Where is that one at? What am I thinking of? Whatever. All right. Anyways, yeah, that's how you can do that. Sonic Bundle has been a nice addition. Yeah, Sonic Bundle's fun. I need to renew mine. What about micro-tuning? Sure. Let's do microtonal things. How about a pluck oscillator? Something, something, something. Oh, we have no sound. I probably did something. Come on, computer. You can do it. Yeah, need to renew my Sonic Pass. Okay. There we go. So, script level stuff. Micro tuner. Let's throw that on. I mean, I guess the whole program doesn't really matter. So, oh. Why am I... missing that? Okay, anyways, micro tuner. Yeah, oh, okay. So, country blues. And this is our tuning table. I'm not really hearing much of a difference there. There we go. So now we have microtonal. So a little goofier sounding. Let's just go to the default. We could grab a Mississippi tuning. So that one's like just very slightly, ever so slightly out of tune. I'm sure like Tibet is going to be way more crazy. Oh, wow. That's nice. Yeah, I actually like that a lot. It would be better with reverb, said everyone. Let's see how that sounds. Huh. That's a very nice micro-tuning. So, yeah, that's micro-tuning, and that event can be inserted. I either on the program or the layer level. So if you wanted different like micro tunings for different layers or something, that's how you can accomplish that. Directly on a key group, well, no, because you can't drag a script onto a key group, because the key group level is polyphonic information, so it wouldn't really make sense. But maybe through like custom scripting you could, if you wanted different key groups. But if you wanted to do that, I think the best way to accomplish it would just be like duplicating the layer. So like key group 1, key group 2, but it's really layer 1, layer 2. So then on these individual layers, I could have 2 different micro tuning scripts running. Which sounds like a complete mess, but that would be the workaround. But maybe through scripting, I just don't know why you would need polyphonic retuning information. Just because like the key group, is designed for polyphonic information. So if you wanted multiple, instances, then I would just do it through the layers. Cool. Slice remixer. That's what I was looking for earlier. I just haven't used that in such a long time. Slice remixer. It was right there in front of my face the whole time. I'm an idiot, that's why. So, that in mind. Yeah, so slice remixer. So let's just like doink, 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 doink. Oh, this is heading. I know what I did wrong. Anyways. I'm just going to new program that because I completely borked that. Okay, so slice, script, slice remixer. Now, we can start messing with which slice happens. We can mess with their velocity. We could add some repeats and stuff. We could play with the pitch and the panning. And now, which is very fun, if we throw that into like a little bit OTT. Put that up into like some faster tempo territory. Throw a phaser on it. And a tube amp. Very fun ways to play with slices in Falcon. I guess one more thing. Can you import tuning files? Yeah, I assume so. I'm sure that's somewhere in like the documentation or whatever. When you make automations, do you hard link MIDI to learn direct function or the macro tab? I'm not sure what that question means. When you make an automation or tie something to MIDI learning, it's locked into that. but you can unlearn it, and then if you want to see assignments, you can find those within the tree view or your list of modulators. So, I guess one more thing before we go. How about we talk about like multiband processing? Because that's super duper fun and something I don't see a lot of people do. So, right now I have a super saw oscillator and a filter of some kind with a ADSR on it. Because it just needs a little modulation, I guess. Cool. So, two very fun effects that I think are pretty underutilized by people when they play with Falcon. The effect rack and the feedback machine. So, let's do this on the program level for the sake of it doesn't really matter right now, but keep in mind, obviously, you can do this on the layer level, and you can instance the effect rack on the key group level, but that can get pretty spicy, as well as the feedback machine, which we'll talk about next. But effect racks, very, 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 very powerful. So an effect rack right now, it does nothing. But if we go into our tree view, we can find our effect rack, and we can see it has a chain. So I can double click that to open it, and now I could add a fuzz into this, which right now is the exact same as just having an effect on there, right? But this is how we can do parallel processing. So within this, I can actually add where's the chain? Oh no, did I make Falcon angry? Oh, add effects chain. Sorry, that wording changed, I think. So now I'm going to add two more effects chains. So chain 1, we can just call this clean. Chain 2, we could call chorus. And chain 3, we could call FSU. So on the chorus one, I'm going to add a chorus, 100% mix. On the FSU rack, we're going to add I don't know, some crazy distortion thing with a wah-wah and a delay. A velvet delay. Cool. So back on our effect rack, we actually don't see anything. Here we could add a effect rack macro. So I'm going to add that. And then for this, we could add well, we can add a major macro. I'm going to play with some of these settings real quick. So add new macro. Then maybe the I don't know, the mix of the low level or something. So that's going to be tied to a main macro, which we don't need. But right now we have macro 1 and macro 2 on the effects rack. So this is going to play with our chorus. And this is going to play with the amount of like delay and dispersion going on. So with this, we have these volume sliders now. And the clean channel is empty. So to fix that, we can go to the, I believe it's under amp and stereo. Just throw a gain in. And that's our clean channel. Now we have a chorus channel and our FSU channel. And then we could add these to main macros on the main page. So macro 1 and macro 2, chorus and FSU. So on the info tab, that's our chorus. That's our FSU channel. So now I can control parallel processing chains within Falcon. Pretty cool stuff. Now, the other version of this that gets a little more interesting, in my mind, is if we go to our effect track here, we have these templates. So I'm going to grab the template for a 3-band chain. And now, within our effect rack, we have 3 different chains. So we have low, middle, and high. And these are built with crossover filters, but you can build this yourself. So on the low end, I want a drive. And on the mid band, I want a delay. And then on the high band, I want diffusion and a chorus. So now, if we listen to just the low band, mid band, and high band. So we can actually use that to do complete band split processing. Within Falcon. So that's pretty kick-ass. And yeah, last thing I want to show, Feedback Machine. Very fun, very dangerous. So Feedback Machine is built up of an effects chain inside of it. So right now, there's not really anything happening, but if I add a comb filter that's very, very resonant, Reaper's gonna like have a fit. So I can feed that back into itself and adjust the overall delay time. And if you really wanted, I guess, if you went into here and added like a couple different comb filters or something, so we can just, does that not duplicate? Okay. We could just play with like different resonances, something like that, and then just add a diffusion between each of these. Just play with the diffusion levels and mixes and whatever. Technically speaking, in a very rudimentary way, you can use this to build your own reverb, which is kind of fun. Right now it's like clipping to death. But you can instantiate whatever you want within that. And then there's a couple different templates for this as well. So the Feedback Machine also has the band pass comb preset, which is pretty fun. So this is like a pre-made version of this. Creates some really fun kind of resonant ringing tones. Very powerful, super neat. Cool. Think that's pretty much it. You know, those are kind of all the super cool things. To control knobs with the wave output of an oscillator or sound generator. No. So that would be audio rate modulation, and there's not really a way to do that. Like, I can't FM the filter from this, but you can add modulation from, like on the key group level. I can have an LFO and then modulate that LFO from the key. So not true audio rate modulation, but you can get like some kind of basic audio rate modulation things that way. Outside of that, you could use on the key group level, like a multi-envelope if you wanted. And we could sync this to tempo. So like, I don't know, 4 times speed. Or I could put this up to 8 times speed. Which, you know, it's not true like audio rate modulation, but you can get, or well, audio rate modulation tied to pitch, I should say, but it is like audio rate modulation that can be cool and crunchy and fun. All right. I think that's it. If anyone has questions, I guess now is the time. I will leave the floor open to you for a couple minutes. But that's my big Falcon rant and all the cool things that you can do with it that I think are super neat that are like not that difficult. Next video, next week, I hope. It's been like 2.5 months and like a couple $1,000s to make that video. So hopefully next week. Ambassador for Falcon. Well, thanks. Yeah, Falcon's super fun. I think it's like way, way, way underutilized. Just because people look at it and go, oh my god, what the hell is that? And then just never bother learning it. But, I mean, it easily rivals like phase plant or VCV or whatever, just in terms of like, well, what do you want it to do? You know, not to say that it's really like a substitute for either of those things, but it definitely holds its own in like the most heavy hitting, like ultra powerful plugins out there. Like it's obnoxious. Yeah. Do you make your own percussion? Yep, all the time. The video I'm working on, I made my own drums the other day for the soundtrack of it by thumping my hand on the body of my acoustic guitar, because I don't have a kick drum, and I figured that does the same thing. Falcon versus Reactor. Oh yeah, that's very different. You know, Reactor's like a visual programming environment. Falcon is like a workstation environment. Saving your custom presets. So saving presets, you can actually just save it into a folder, which I should be able to show here. Yeah, if I go to load program, oh, it has to re-index everything because this is the beta. Anyways, if I go to load program, you can load it from a folder or a reference. Okay. Yeah, I have way too many UVI libraries, so that's gonna take like all year. Anyways, yeah, so you can save your presets, and you can also save the samples with the preset. So if you have a sample-based preset and you want to back up the samples into the preset, there's an option to save the preset with the samples all nested in the same location. So that way you can save everything and it, you know, knows where everything is. Jam first or cream first? Cream first. Templates also don't get enough love. Oh yeah, I guess we should talk about that real quick. So, if you are going to go into Falcon and bravely venture forward, when you load Falcon, there are program templates. So, well, if I completely start over from a new Falcon, the first time you load it and pull it up in your session, it's going to take a second just because, again, I have like 5,000 libraries. We have these templates here. So there's an analog polysynth, analog monosynth, supersaw, FM, wavetable, texture. So all the different like basic modes. So if we loaded up the sample simple piano, in the mapping here, I can see there's just one sample stretched across all the keys. So if I wanted to just use this as is, I could just go in and replace this sample with something from like one of my sample yeah, one of my sample instrument things. And now I've got all this stuff built into it of like, there's a filter, it's tied to velocity, there's a little delay, there's a little reverb. So now we have like a basic template to build something off of. So templates are super useful. You can also access this here. Oh my God. I'm dying here. So program templates, analog poly. And then if I wanted to layer this, I could add a new one. Program template, FM. And tie these both to A1. Blend these together. And I want to add another one. And I want that to be a motion wavetable an octave down. And MIDI channel, duh. And I could slow down the modulation. And now we've got a big multi-layered patch inside of Falcon. How do you decide where to put LFOs and envelopes? That's a really good question, actually. So let's just do this again. So if we're working in Falcon and let's just do... It's going to be a super ugly patch, but you'll get the point. So right now, let's say we're doing just basic subtractive thing. Doesn't matter what. So LFOs and envelopes, there's a couple different things. An LFO can exist on different levels. So if I add a layer level LFO, controlling this, that's fine. But as you hear, when I play a chord, and if I play those notes at slightly different times, they're all getting modulated at slightly different times. So that doesn't matter as much because the trigger of the LFO is the event of a note playing. And we can see if I do that again. So a layer level LFO. And if we watch this LFO right here, that's a polyphonic LFO. And we could also have this in legato mode. To where if I play a chord, and if I play those notes at different times once again. So in legato mode, it's all getting pushed through a single LFO, whereas retrigger mode, those are all having polyphonic modulation. So the problem kind of emerges here if we do a layer level ADSR. So we can have retrigger and legato. And that's fine. But if we have a modulator or something at a higher level than the information is received, it can get a little breaky because we want, you know, polyphonic information in some cases. So at a layer level, it can get triggered, but sometimes you don't want that to be tied with other things that are getting triggered. So in those cases, you might want to add a modulator at a key group level. And then in other cases, a layer level might be fine. It also kind of depends on, like, is it mono? Is it poly? Is there any other, you know, spacing things going on or whatever? So that's really kind of, I guess, somewhat deterministic based on, like, the goal of the patch you're making. But broadly speaking, polyphonic information that's going to happen a bunch of different times, the key group level is generally where you want that stuff, and then the layer level is more reserved for, like, anything that other key groups are going to do together. So if I have more than one key group, Let's make this a triangle, an octave up. Cool. So key group 1 has a filter, key group 2 doesn't. I think I just added the analog filter, right? Cool. So I can select both key groups and add modulation from a layer level LFO. And let's go into key group 1 and make this like a sine wave or something. So now both of these key groups have low-pass filters being triggered by a layer level LFO. And it's still polyphonic information. But if we wanted them to have more unique modulation, like whenever I change the rate of that LFO or anything like that, it's going to affect it. So instead, if I add a key group level LFO and then another one here, so key group 2, key group 1, add modulation, key group, LFO. Now these LFOs are unique, so they can have different rates and different depths and different delays and things like that. So that information is not being shared across all key groups in a layer. So now these will drift. If I make them a little faster, it should be more audible. So hopefully that makes sense. What level is the macro modulation level? Is it program? So macro modulation, it kind of exists outside of everything. It's just a global control. So if I assign, I don't know, the hard syncing of this sine oscillator to a macro, we can see here it's on the program level, but it's not like an obvious thing. It's going to show up here in the modulation. So macro. So macros exist on a global level all the time. I'm pretty sure, like 90% sure. Yeah, so it's more or less like entirely independent. Can some all effects be polyphonic distortion applied per voice? Yeah. Let's clean this patch up a little bit. So right now we have our triangle wave. So key group level is polyphonic stuff. Let's add a tube amp to that. And now we could play with a would be a fun way to kind of dick with this. Why don't we add on the drive I guess the voice modulator would make the most sense. So now this voice mod, let's just do something like this. And I'm going to set this to 0. Every voice is going to get a slightly different amount of drive. So you can hear that. And if I play a chord, and that can be a lot of different things too, which is very fun. So add a modulation on the key group. Actually, let's just add a random. So I can edit the random to detune every voice by, I don't know, 15 cents. Same thing, we can apply this to panning. So add modulation, yeah, another random, I guess. So I'm going to turn down the depth of modulation. So now every voice within a 8-voice poly synthesizer, everyone's going to be detuned randomly. There's a voice level modulator in the key group, or yeah, voice modulator within the key group level assigned to the drive. And then I have another random modulator tied to the panning. So nice and detuned and interesting. So that's kind of a cool way to do that. And you know, any effect you can instantiate on the key group level, there can be polyphonic modulation of that. I mean, I guess like in theory, yeah, some effects like reverb, or no, reverb can. That's interesting. Doesn't look like delays can, which I guess makes sense. Like that would be a fuck ton of processing. If that's even possible. But yeah, I guess like bloom even could be per voice. So the key group level voice modulator, and I want to, yeah, so now every voice that seems broken. Okay, so I guess reverb can't. But yeah, so anything that gets instantiated in here can have like polyphonic level modulation. Effects chains can be inserted at key group. I think so. Yeah, so an effect rack right here. So then kind of like what I talked about earlier with effect racks. Here we could go into the effect rack, add a chain of some kind, assign macros to the effect rack level, and then edit those effect rack macros via modulators. Yeah, I assume some of these could like give your computer an absolute meltdown depending on how dumb you get with it. Yeah, is that it? Any other super burning questions or desires? I think we've been going for about 2 hours. That's about as much as I wanted to spend on this, but if anyone wants to know anything else, now is the time. I guess outside of that, for the sake of doing it, if you want to learn more about Falcon, there's a link at the top of the chat. There should be a link in the description or the comments or something. It's on sale through November 3rd, 50% off, so $149. And you know, Falcon Factory Library, everything you saw me using, all those effects and all that, that's included. You can add your own samples. You also get a $100 voucher, so you could add that towards expansion or one of the other things. And there's a lot more information here on just like all the different effects and, you know, shit it can do, which may be worth reading if you want to learn more. Of course, outside of that, yeah, if you know Lua, you can program your own scripts. You can do all sorts of fun things with Falcon. So yeah, there's a link somewhere you can click if you want to learn more about it. Sorry, I think the stream maybe went out there for a second. My bad. Any cool compressor tricks? Not really, you know, just compress things a bunch and then they sound louder and cooler. Favorite Falcon feature? I don't know. I really like the granular oscillators. Falcon's great at just like ridiculous paths with all the like MPE shit and whatever. Should I leave my wife for her sister? Only if her sister is hotter. Any chance UVI script will enable third-party libraries? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if anyone's really developing stuff for Falcon outside of UVI, which is a shame, but, you know, in theory, I guess you could. little off topic. Yeah, sure. I guess we'll answer that, and that's about it. Doesn't seem like anyone else has questions here. Balance between getting inspired and being original. I am a big fan if you have writer's block, you feel uninspired, you just don't know like what to do, when to do it, da da da. Just give yourself a day. Like one day from the time I wake up until I go to bed, I have to make a piece of music. Completely finished, like fucking mixed, mastered, whole 9 yards. I think that's a very helpful way to get around it because you notice a lot of the hang-ups in what you're doing instead of sitting there going like, well, do I use this piano or this compressor or this reverb? You realize that none of that matters at all because the goal is not like use the best reverb ever made. The goal is get the song done. So I think that could be a helpful practice just to kind of, light a fire under your ass. And the song doesn't need to be great. It just needs to be done. And I think by practicing that enough, eventually, as I've talked about in other videos and stuff, you just learn that like quantity is what makes quality, and you learn to just like get over yourself. It's very hard to sit there and come up with like the best idea ever all the time. Your job isn't to make the greatest thing ever. Your job is just to make stuff. So I think it's a matter of like reframing your mindset and then just understanding that, what is it about my process that's slowing me down? And I think that like song in a day practice is a really good way just to be like, oh, wow, I'm spending way too much time overthinking everything. And like, why have I been EQing this kick drum for 3 hours? Stuff like that. Do you like Final Fantasy music? I've never played Final Fantasy, so don't know. I pooped today. Nice. All right, cool. Yeah, I think that's about it. Well, hey, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Like I said, if you have other questions and stuff, you can leave them in the comments. I know UVI is going to try and answer more questions. You can rewatch the whole stream if you missed any of it. If you want to check out Falcon, link in the chat, link in the description. Probably a link in the comments after I finish this. I'm about to sneeze, and that feeling is like killing me. Holy shit. Yeah, that's it. I got to get back to work. Play Final Fantasy, they're good. Maybe I'll give it a shot. It's never seemed like a game I would be into, but we'll find out. I got to get back to filming and editing. New video, hopefully next week. This video has just been an ungodly amount of work, but hopefully next week. And then a new game, Don't Look at Grandma, on Steam. Wishlist it, play it. The demo's out now. It's a good time. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good day, night, morning, whatever it is where you are. Say bye, chat. This is the Chablet. You are within the Chablet. The Chablet is within you. Thanks for hanging out with me. And I will catch you all later. Bye.